Welcome to the World Changing Podcast.
Was that too much? Yeah, that was probably too much. But let's keep it. We'll keep it anyway. How about this? If we do the podcast and the world doesn't change, then we can take that out. Welcome to the World Changing Podcast, where we deconstruct the projects and products that are moving us towards a decentralized and carbon-free future. We'll talk to skeptics, supporters, and innovators in the fields that depend on electricity to run their industries, which is changing every single day. I'm your host, Greg Robinson, co-founder of Aston Labs, a decentralized infrastructure company. And on the other side of the camera here, we have Flo Lumsden, our producer, and she will make sure that the train stays on the tracks while we do this. Are you recording?
I am recording.
Oh, all right then.
But don't worry about it. What are some of the goals or hopes for the podcast?
Yeah,
if we could sum it up.
I think the hopes would be that we want to highlight some of the new technologies that aren't being discussed as much. I think we want to explore the new ideas that could help the world be more environmentally healthy and make this planet a more equitable place for people. And we want to, this one's kind of personal for me, is like, I really want to make sure that we have a place for ideas and concepts to be as complicated as they need to be. Sometimes when you're solving a problem that still is in the future, it's hard to fully articulate it exactly as it should be articulated. And I think getting into the weeds on those problems and leaving the nuance there, we want to make sure that this is a place to do that. Also challenging assumptions about what's good and bad. I think sometimes, like certain energy, obviously nuclear is always brought up as this debate of whether this is good or this is bad. It's like, well, can we dig that out a little bit and be like, are there different types of nuclear, different way of making it that could be interesting, a different size of plant that could make it interesting, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And then this one's big too, is just like electricity is fundamental to every single industry now.
Yeah.
Like the crypto industry is always talking about like, oh, we need to help the unbanked, the 1.9 billion people who are unbanked. It's like, well, the unbanking problem in a fundamental way is an electricity problem. Not only, but if you get down to the long tail of the other people, it's like, well, if there's 1 billion people who are unbanked, mm-hmm. who also don't have electricity, it's gonna be really hard for you to hand them like a digital token and have them go pay for it at their store, right? Like there's no internet, there's right. And there are ways around this. And it's important for us to know this is not an impossible problem. This is something that could be fixed. But I think making sure that we highlight and encourage the cross-pollination between all of the industries that are needed, or that could actually help move this conversation of sustainability and kind of infrastructure system design forward. We are going to try our best to have certain guests on to explore some of those topics where they're trying to solve the problem, or where they just really understand the problem. Like, it's good for us to hear where there's just like intractable problems.
We're going to keep learning. We're not going to assume that we know everything ever.
Right.
Even if we're trying to build the next infrastructure company, which we are, or you are, we are going to keep the conversation going. We're going to be open to learning new things, challenging our assumptions.
Like nuclear is this idea. Many people have already filled that idea up with concrete. It's like they have a concrete understanding of what it is. And if you want to change that, then it's like, sorry.
Too late.
You're going to have to chip that thing with a jackhammer.
For a long time.
For a long time to get me to change my mind on that. And I think if going back to the hope of this podcast, if this podcast has to be the jackhammer that just chips away at people's concrete ideas of what exists in what it's going to take.
And maybe, and also brings in new boxes.
Yeah. Yeah. Brings in things we haven't thought about before.
Things that bring in ideas and technologies that people don't even know are out there that could be brought into the equation.
Yep.
Sorry. Yeah. I cut you off. I didn't mean to cut you off. You said
No.
you were happy to be the jackhammer.
Yeah, I was happy. I'm happy if we have to be the jackhammer. I'm also happy if we have to be the people that help to discover just completely new containers. And we'll try to stay away from analogies and metaphors as much as we possibly can.
Well, I mean, no. Analogies are so helpful, though. It's just there's lots of times when they're helpful, and then there's some times where they're destructive.
Yeah, there's sometimes where they sort of smooth over the nuances that are essential to actually have a conversation. So we'll choose wisely.
We'll try to be careful with how many analogies we make, and we can't promise perfection, but we'll try.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's
All right.
good for the introduction. Anything
Word.
else you want to add?
No.
All right.
Let's get started. Thanks for tuning into this world-changing podcast. Our first full episode is coming soon. Be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, to hear the latest episodes.